Of our Tournament of Champions, and thus far through the first two matches, the top seeds have prevailed.
They have indeed, and Shawn Baker now will take on our number 3 seed this week, Don Richmond. We kind of thought scoring might be a little bit higher last week based on the fact that Shawn Baker's been on fire, winning lots of money lately, but perhaps he's saving his best bowling for the last couple of weeks.
2 weeks ago, we saw 5th seed Gary Santora eliminate 6th seed Steve Plant. Last week, it was number 4 Shawn Baker ousting number 5 Gary Santora. Let's meet this afternoon's participants. First, last week's winner and our number 4 seed Shawn Baker from Lynn, Massachusetts.
Yeah, he had a 367 last week in defeating Gary Santora. His current average is 127, high single 213. Shawn's high triple is 464, and he bowls his league activity at the Lucky Strike lanes in Lynn.
And as we mentioned last week, a 367 to 349 win over Gary Santora. And this week, Shawn takes on our number 3 seed, Don Richmond from Holbrook, Massachusetts.
Don Richmond, one of 3 bowlers who had 400 to get to the Tournament of Champions in their respective ladders. He had 403. Averaging this year, currently 120. High single is 201. 510 is Don Richmond's high triple. He had a 403, as I mentioned, to get into this position. And it's the Hanson Bowlodrome in Hanson, Mass, where Don Richmond does his league bowling.
$1,350 in our triple strike jackpot. Our bonus ball contest is up to $60. Let's get right to it. It's week 3 of the Tournament of Champions at Leda Lanes in Nashua, New Hampshire. We're back with Candlepin Stars and Strikes on WNDS TV right after this. Week 3 of the Tournament of Champions at Leda Lanes in Nashua, New Hampshire. Week 1 saw Gary Santora down Steve Plant. Week 2, Shawn Baker eliminated Gary Santora, setting up today's match with Shawn Baker taking on 3rd seed Don Richmond. It'll be Shawn Baker first to bowl here in this 3rd match of our Tournament of Champions on Candlepin Stars and Strikes. Ready to go on lane 34 is Shawn Baker, and the match is underway. Look at that 1 pin, which is now the 1.5 pin. That pin danced about 3 inches, didn't it?
At least. A little wood on the deck, which should help him.
He's got the spare to start out.
Didn't need the wood at all, just went right through it.
Shawn has been on somewhat of a tear lately, as we mentioned last week. And he fills the spare with the 9.
You're alluding to the fact that he won the Easter Singles Tournament here a month ago for $5,000. Now, the man who came in second behind him, we'll see next week, Rich Clark, our number 2 seed in the Tournament of Champions. So it's conceivable if Shawn wins this, tournament, $1,500, another $5 grand a couple of weeks ago, $6,500 for, a month's worth of bowling. If you could do that for 12 months, you could quit your day job.
So has a shot at it, he'll take it.
Pinball time.
The spare in the 2nd frame, 2 marks in a row. Watch the ball come back, go off the sidewall. And why that is legal, if the ball hits something on the way through, anything on the way through, it can come back into play. If the ball had gone through the deck without hitting anything, it could not come back and knock anything down and have it count. Don Richmond gets a little delayed reaction on his first shot. Don Richmond, our number 3 seed from Holbrook, Massachusetts, 47 years old. And he starts out with a spare. Don's an engineering technician for Kitty Fennell in Ashland, Massachusetts. Married to Debbie, a son DJ, Don Jr., 10 years old.
He's with him today, by the way, wearing the baseball cap. Right in the immediate front row.
That one got away from him, and he'll only put 3 in the spare.
But a very makeable spare. It's not a punch out. He's got a little wood also in there, which should help in the mixing action.
Just like that. 2 marks in a row for both bowlers to start out. Action heats up here in the Tournament of Champions. Got a great note here, Mike, from Anna Davis of Bedford, Massachusetts, and I'll talk about the note here in a second as we watch Shawn Baker looking for 3 marks in a row. She talks about the longevity of candlepin bowling on television and gets into that a little bit, and that's great. Then she points out, and this is really, really nice, as Shawn Baker has 3 marks in a row. $50 in bonus money to start out for Shawn Baker right off the bat. Several weeks ago, we had a note from a Charlie Kulevich from Marlboro. There's a strike. 4 marks in a row to start out for Shawn Baker. Watch it again as he is on fire to start out. Well, when Anna Young heard the name, she remembered a girl that she graduated with in 1936, married a fellow by that name. As Don Richmond starts on fire. He's in frame 3, and he's working on 2 marks, looking for bonus money. Waiting for the wood. And trying to keep pace with Shawn Baker. And he does. 3 marks in a row. Don Richmond with bonus money. Anyway, Anna Young heard the name, and it sounded familiar, so she looked in the book, found the number, called him, and sure enough, it was the same person, and they were reunited.
After how many years?
After a long time. Wow. 1936.
63 years.
It's a small world, Anna Young points out. And they had a great conversation, and just a nice story. And
well,
we appreciate hearing from Anna Young.
How bowling brought those 2 people together. Just before we started today, I was talking to a woman who said she and her husband are about to have their 39th wedding anniversary, and they met at a bowling center in Haverhill almost 4 decades ago.
The first open box of this match in the 4th frame to Don Richmond. He's at 58 through 4. Shawn Baker working on 4 marks in a row, working on a strike. 4 horsemen left side.
He's already got $70, huh?
Yep.
And the triple strike jackpot this week is $1,350 for a 3-strike set.
There's 5 marks in a row to open the string for Shawn Baker, the red-hot 23-year-old from Lynn, Massachusetts. Don't touch him. He's on fire. The crowd trying to root the pins over. The familiar chant from Candlepin bowling fans.
94 already in the 5th frame. He's not left a pin standing. This will be his biggest challenge so far. The 5 and the 6 with some wood. I think the wood is frozen. That will be helpful.
He makes the spare.
Don Richmond running into the buzzsaw early on here in the first game of today's 3-game match.
Now let's see how Richmond responds. He has a high single of 201, a high triple of 510. And he just missed the spare right there.
He defeated Paul Willits 403 to 311 to advance to today's Tournament of Champions. That was back last fall. Been a while since we've seen Mr. Richmond.
He has a 68 half, and he's trailing by 28 pins.
I know.
26 pins.
Well, that's set up nicely for him. The 2-4-5. 5-pin sliding a little closer and some wood wedged in between.
The key is hitting the 2-pin right here, which he did, and he will convert the spare. 4 marks and 6 boxes for Don Richmond. Not too shabby for a first string for himself.
Yeah.
But he's falling behind the red-hot Shawn Baker, who's working on 6 marks in a row. And a piece of wood that's coming this way. And Chris Bovair, our official scorer, will run down and remove that from the lane.
It's part of his job description. Still waiting for the day we see Mr. Bovair on our show, not as the scorekeeper, but as one of the bowlers. He's a fine young bowler himself.
Look at that spare.
Whoa!
For Shawn Baker. 7 marks in a row. $130 in bonus money for Shawn. You watch it again. Wow.
Is he throwing the ball with confidence or what?
The 9-pin still stands.
Trying to get that piece of wood in the back to get out of the way so it doesn't disrupt the front pin from hitting the 9-pin.
Eight marks in a row to start the first string for Shawn Baker. I don't think I've ever seen that before.
8 marks in a row?
And to start a first string like that, I'm not sure.
No,
I
don't think we have. Not since you and I have been hosting. What's interesting is the high single bowled this year was 165 by Steve Vadney back on March 7th, and
it's in
Shawn
jeopardy.
Baker will definitely pass it.
Look at Don Richmond respond with a strike inside the spare. He's got a terrific first string going right here himself.
What Shawn is going to have to look out for next game is going to be the big letdown, and invariably it just seems to happen so frequently. You have a huge game, and then you can't hit anything to follow it up.
Richmond with 2 marks in a row, 2 strikes in a row, 3 marks in a row. Another $50 in bonus money for Don. And what a string we've got going.
Oh.
Wow. Here's Shawn Baker on 34. Missed the head pin. But they still fall. Put 7 in the spare.
He's made a couple of difficult spares so far to keep the string at 8 marks. This is not an easy one. It's the 1, 3, and the 7.
The last one he made was tougher than that. He's open for the first time.
Gets a appreciative round of applause.
It's appreciation. 10 bucks, 155. Listen to the crowd. For Shawn Baker, he's at 155 with a box to go.
And he will, with the mark, beat Steve Vadney's 165 for the high game we've had so far in this season.
And he comes back with a strike.
Very nice.
165 plus a couple of balls. An incredible first string for Shawn Baker. Watch out, it won't go.
And Don Richmond is thinking, don't win that money before I get my chance at it.
A 175 first string for Shawn Baker. But don't go away, because Don Richmond has some work to do. $1,350 on the line right here.
Boy, the atmosphere is just electric, Dick.
$1,350. He threw it right on the money, didn't he? Right in the 1-3 pocket.
Most importantly, though, he's going to stay fairly close to Shawn Baker, who just reeled off an incredible 175 game.
Oh, he picked the pin off, and he doesn't get the spare.
That's a shame, because he was on par to also shoot in the 170s. Now he'll need a double for that.
9 bucks, 144 for Don Richmond. A mark puts him at 160. What a first string we have seen.
Can they keep it up is the question. Tough to do.
Look at this. The wood is good.
Yeah.
It's a makeable shot. I think that wood is frozen to the 5-pin, which makes it even more makeable.
It is. not angled quite as well as he'd like.
He's got it. He'll finish with a spare. 154 plus a ball.
So really that 9th frame open would have essentially been a tie game. Both men in the 170s.
He punched through.
Only 3.
3. A 157 first string for Don Richmond. 175 for Baker. 157 for Richmond. Wow. Hold your breath. We've only just begun. String 2 coming up of this terrific match on Candlepin Stars and Strikes, the Tournament of Champions from Leda Lanes in Nashua on WNDS TV. Don Richmond ready to bowl to begin the second string. And what a first string it was. That's a tough one to match, tough one to follow. $150 in bonus money for Shawn Baker, $100 in bonus money for Don Richmond. And Richmond starts out with a shot right in the pocket right off the bat. 175 to 157, an 18-pin lead for Shawn Baker. And a spare for Don Richmond to start out the second string. Well, these are the best of the best.
A runner-up today wins $300. Both men already winning a lot of bonus money to go along with $300. Which one of these guys will take?
In the pocket again, 7 in the spare.
245 once again.
We appreciate all the cards and letters that have been sent in over the past several weeks. If you'd like to write to us, as Don Richmond misses the spare, the mailing address is Candlepin Stars and Strikes, WNDS TV 50 Television Place, Derry, New Hampshire. And as I pointed out a couple of weeks ago, we had an inquiry from one of our viewers wanting to know why we gave out 2 addresses. Leda Lanes is at 340 Amherst Street in Nashua, New Hampshire. And WNDS is at 50 Television Place in Derry, New Hampshire. Here's Shawn Baker picking up where he left off, burying a strike to start the second string. Watch this again. No doubt about it. He has the touch. This time he punched it right through, right on the head pin. Spread eagle plus the 9-pin lurks back there. Question from a viewer, Michael, and we can address this real quickly. We talked about it last week, as a matter of fact. Beverly Tatterfield from Rochester, New Hampshire, says she's been watching Candlepin bowling for a long time, going back to the old Channel 5 show, and she wants to know whatever happened to Don Gillis. And we talked about a testimonial coming up.
Yes, if you'd like a chance to meet and say hello to Don Gillis, the WCBC Annual Awards Night Banquet is coming up on Saturday night, June 12th. What will be special and different about this evening is they will be honoring Don Gillis and the entire Channel 5 crew for 38 years of bowling excitement, much as we're trying to carry on the torch here at WNDS. It takes place at the Crestview in Woburn. If you'd like tickets, they're $30, but it includes the awards presentation, dinner, dancing, and you get to meet the whole Channel 5 crew as well as a lot of the bowlers you see on our show. Call Paul Wambach at 508-757-2185. Again, that's June 12th in Woburn, Mass. 508-757-2185. Then you can ask Don Gillis in person what he's been up to since the show went off the air in '96.
10 for Don Richmond. Have you ever had a testimonial for yourself, Michael? There's never been a testimonial dinner for Mike Moran, has there?
No, there has not.
I've never had one either, and I remember working with the legendary Jerry Williams when I was at WRKO in Boston.
Yeah.
He always used to talk about how he never had a time. There was never a time for Jerry Williams, a testimonial or a dinner. Don Richmond, a 9-pin drop, the 5-pin still standing. A lot of wood on the deck.
Yeah. I imagine your testimonial is probably just a year or 2 away.
I have the invitations all printed up. I just have to fill in the date. Oh, he gets the spare backdoor. The backdoor spare for Don Richmond in the 4th frame. Watch it again. Watch this pin come from behind, off the boards.
I think the ball would have taken it.
The ball might have come the other direction.
Came back.
Now Shawn Baker. That time he missed the head pin. Leaves the 1, 3, 4, and 7.
This is where it gets to be a grind when you start leaving some of these spares after bowling 9 marks in one game. Suddenly you're looking at some very difficult spares. And this is where Don Richmond has the opportunity now to make some of that 17-pin deficit back.
It's an 8 box for Shawn Baker. He's already gained back 6 pins. Plus, Don has a spare in the 4th frame. So while Shawn Baker was rolling a torrid 175 in the first string, Don Richmond was hanging around.
Yeah, very well put. Now, there was a great pocket hit, and look what Shawn Baker left. Again, we talk about the letdown factor after a big game. This is where you really need to pull all your mental resources together and hang in there.
Laying the wood and taking a chance. $10 for Shawn Baker as we go to break. When we come back, Don Richmond works on a spare and tries to inch a little bit closer. It's week 3 of the Tournament of Champions on Candlepin Stars and Strikes. On WNDS TV, we come back to Leda Lanes in Nashua, New Hampshire right after this break. Don Richmond ready to go. Working on a spare. He's picked up 6 pins already. Plus whatever he gets on this ball. We have a virtually dead even match.
Which is really hard to imagine when you consider Shawn Baker bowled 175 last game, that we're even now.
And a spare. It's conceivable if Shawn doesn't mark next time he steps to the line that Don Richmond will have the lead.
Shawn Baker was our youngest bowler last season. He was 21 years of age when he appeared. Our youngest bowler this season was Dave Oliveri at 22 years of age. Our oldest, Phil Bergstrom, 52. We saw him just a couple of weeks ago. So a 30-year spread between youngest and oldest. And the average age, 36.13.
Nice spare for Don Richmond. $50 more in bonus money. And he makes a run at Shawn Baker. Don has $150 in bonus money in the match, as does Shawn. And Shawn now off the head pin.
Shawn Baker had a 94 half last game at this time. He'll be happy to have 50 if he doesn't make the spare.
And the shots he was making in the first string, he's not making in the second string. It comes and goes just like that. $10.
Well, he will find the range again. I'm pretty confident about that. He had 367 last week, a little under average.
This time he leaves a split. This time he can't convert, so he'll be open for these 2 boxes, and actually he's open for 5 boxes in a row now with a 9. After striking in the first frame of the second string, he's gone open since, and Don Richmond has taken the lead. He leads by 4 pins plus whatever he gets on this ball to fill a spare. Add 6 to it, so it's a 10-pin lead for Don Richmond. Nice note sent in by Jeff Stedman from Lynn, Massachusetts, a regular viewer. And Don Richmond unable to convert, and the string of bonus money comes to an end at $50. A 9 for Richmond.
Over to lane 33. The torrid pace set by our bowlers in the first string, a thing of the past. Now they're grinding it out, frame by frame.
The pace has slowed, hasn't it?
It has. But you can't keep a pace like that up indefinitely.
Don will be open in these 2 frames. A nice 10 box there. He's at 107. Well, Shawn Baker had 9 marks in the first string, and Don Richmond had 7. So 16 boxes and 20 frames in the first string between the 2 bowlers.
Wow. Give away a couple $100 in bonus money, I see.
Yeah, we have 150 to each guy right now. There's Shawn trying to light that fire once again.
Oh, so $300.
$300 total.
Wow. I should say Ray Simonos giving that money away. The good folks at Lita Lanes here providing the bonus money for our bowlers.
There's a mark for Shawn Baker, finally getting untracked in the second string.
Rich Clark is waiting in the wings next week.
Nice article sent in by Jack Kelly of Lowell, Massachusetts, sending in an article from the Improper Bostonian. And another spare for Shawn Baker. He puts a couple of marks back to back.
It's a tie match.
Listing several places to bowl in and around the Boston area. And there are lots of places to bowl.
But many fewer than there once was, unfortunately.
Now Don Richmond comes back after going open 2 frames in a row. He responds with a strike. Watch it one more time, right on the Brooklyn side. No, we talked about it before. When I was a kid growing up in Worcester, Worcester was a real hotbed for candlepin bowling. There were,
as it should be, as the birthplace,
over 20 houses in the city at one time. I don't think I hit all of them, but I hit most of them.
Did you? Well, as real estate really began to rocket in the 80s, that was really the beginning of the end for a lot of family-owned bowling centers that saw an opportunity to get out and make a lot of money on the land.
2 marks in a row for Don Richmond to close out the string.
He's going to have 300 going in through 2 games.
That one
well, maybe
past. He'll take a 2 in the spare.
Make a liar out of me, Don.
That's a 139 second string. And a 2-string total of 296. Now Shawn Baker working on a spare. He will put 8 in the spare, and the wood is good.
Yeah, the wood is excellent.
Very makeable shot here for Shawn.
And for $50.
Yep, he's looking for some bonus money. He's got it. He now has $200 in bonus money in the match.
And he's in a pretty good position to take the lead over once again after relinquishing it here for a good part of this game.
Well, to do that, he's going to be close to 300 for 2 strings, that's for sure. Right on the head pin, spread eagle. Right through the middle. He's at 115.
Well, if he could have picked up a 121 here, we'd have a tie match.
It'll be a $6 to finish out, a 117. And a 4-pin lead for Don Richmond going to the third and final string of this exciting match in week 3 of our Tournament of Champions. On Candlepin Stars and Strikes, we come back to Leda Lanes in Nashua, New Hampshire on WNDS TV right after this. Well, both bowlers are virtually certain to bowl 400s. One of them's going to lose. 296 for Don Richmond. Shawn Baker has 292. Shawn Baker first to bowl in the third string. And he punches it right through. A 139 second string for Don Richmond, a 117 for Shawn Baker. Baker's 117 follows his first string 175. So the lead has changed hands a couple of times. And it'll be an $8 to start out for Shawn Baker. I want to tell you about the Kahala Chinese Restaurant and Lounge on Amherst Street in Nashua, right next door to Leda Lanes. They have a wonderful luncheon buffet every Monday through Saturday from 11:45 to 2 p.m. And the dinner buffet, and there's Shawn Baker right in the pocket. The dinner buffet Thursday from 5 to 8 p.m., Sunday from noon to 8 p.m. All you care to eat. The next time you come to Leda Lanes, make it a family outing and head next door to the Kahala. They have some Szechuan specials, Szechuan spiced chicken, diced chicken sauteed with red peppers, bamboo shoots, celery, scallions, and peanuts. Sounds delicious. Strange flavored sliced chicken, one of their specials. Tender chicken breast, pan-fried with pea pods. Baby corn, bamboo shoots, water chestnuts, and red pepper strips in the special Szechuan spicy sauce. Lots of different items for you to try. The buffet has many different items. Every time you go in, you're bound to find something different, something for everyone in the family. From soup to dessert, it's all inclusive and all delicious at the Kahala Chinese Restaurant and Lounge, 350 Amherst Street, right next door to Leda Lanes. Take exit 7W if you're coming from the south on the Everett Turnpike. Coming from the north, it's exit 8. The Kahala Chinese Restaurant and Lounge on Amherst Street in Nashua as Don Richmond starts out the third string with a spare.
What a beautiful conversion of the 4 horsemen right side. The 1, 3, 6, and the 10. You put the ball squarely between the 1 and the 3, and all 4 should go. Doesn't always happen, but perfectly that time.
That time a strike for Don Richmond as he went on the Brooklyn side. So he opens up the third string with back-to-back marks, and there's the strike, the replay. Caught nicely by our WNDS TV 50 crew, our director Ken Knight. Our audio is handled by Larry Taylor. There's Shawn Baker. Will he get it? Looking for back-to-back marks. Our replay tape handled by Dave McCarthy. Graphics Lisa Law. On video is Paul Hunter. Cameras Steve Giordani, Kevin LaFond, and Brian Butler, all here at Leda Lanes in Nashua, New Hampshire for the Tournament of Champions on WNDS TV as Shawn Baker has back-to-back marks. Seems to have found the range one more time. Now bonus money comes into play once again. Bounced it down a little bit that time, but still managed to stay on the head pin.
And a very makeable spare, the 3 and the 5. Try to bypass the wood perpendicular out in front.
Another spare, another $50 for Shawn Baker.
These guys are hammering away at each other.
Had a lady come up to Mike Morin prior to our taping today and said, how is it possible that you're here taping Candlepin Stars and Strikes and you're on WZID 95.7 every afternoon?
And your answer to that was?
Ventriloquism.
That's right.
But don't forget, you can catch Mike every time you drive home throughout New Hampshire on WZID 95.7 FM.
Thank you.
That time he's not able to convert the spare. Puts 8 in the strike. And he'll take an 8-box. This match has every indication of going right down to the wire. He breaks up the split and leaves himself a makeable spare. Got the 3 and the 4. Check it, the 2 and the 4. And he makes the spare. We go to the break. Both bowlers coming back, working on marks, heading down the home stretch of this exciting Tournament of Champions match between Shawn Baker and Don Richmond. We come back to Leda Lanes in Nashua, New Hampshire on Candlepin Stars and Strikes on WNDS TV. Shawn Baker gets ready to go on lane 34. He's working on a spare. He's working on 3 spares in a row. He has won $250 in bonus money. And he's looking for more. He threw it at the headpin, but didn't get much to show for it.
Shawn had a good year on the Pro Tour, the WCBC, coming in 9th overall when you add up all the pins, all the tournaments. 5 of their 6 best tournaments are figured into that. He came in 9th this year.
Played the wood on the left that time, hoping for something coming off the wall. And he'll take a 10 box.
Speaking of the Pro Tour, Dick, we never did actually mention the results. We were a little bit out of sync with our taping schedule and the schedule of the WCBC this year, but the final tournament held, I believe, back in March at Hub Lanes in Lunenburg was won for the women by Joanne Rosano, and she is the WCBC Women's Bowler of the Year, the #1 ranked lady. Following her was Karen McCormick, who's here today in the audience, Janet Pock, Donna Bonzi, and Nancy Vestal tied. For the men, Mike Morgan was the winner, and he is, for the men, he is also the #1 Bowler of the Year for the WCBC.
Now Shawn went for it, tried to slide that 2-pin across into the 6, and he'll settle for a 9 box. He's at 81 through 6. Don Richmond working on a spare, trying to add to his lead.
Don Richmond, the 12th ranked WCBC bowler this year. Behind Mike Morgan was Dick O'Connell, John Zernicke, Rich Lottie, and Gary Carrington rounding out the top 5 in Lunenburg back in March.
Right on the head pin and right through. The 2-4-7 on the left, the 3-6-9 on the right.
But he's up against the Shawn Baker Open, so not too much damage.
A 6 box, that doesn't help.
Nope.
A 3 to fill the spare and a 6 box. That could come back to haunt him. A 4 to fill the spare. And he bounces back with a mark in the 6th frame. An important mark for Don Richmond.
He's going to be sorry he left that cluster there in the 5th frame if it comes down to a 1 or 2 pin decision.
And it just might. Shawn Baker on the head pin. The 6 and the 10 with a piece of wood in front. Key here, keep the ball on the lane. Spare for Shawn. Terrific crowd on hand at Leda Lanes.
Literally hundreds and hundreds of people are here.
We started taping at 9 o'clock in the morning, and people were here at 7, I'm told. I was not. Six in the spare.
A couple of pieces of wood in front of the pin over there at the 2.
That's the way to go after it.
I would think.
Gave it a shot. 10 pin still stands.
This is certainly one of the best matches we've had in recent memory.
That first string was scintillating.
175 to 157.
10 box for Shawn Baker, 107 through 8. Don Richmond working on a spare. Watch how close he came. That 10 pin still standing in the corner. Don Richmond filling a spare. Last time put 4 in a spare. This time missed the head pin again. And this time he'll have a 5, maybe more. Watch out. 6. He'll end up with 6 in the spare. And the good fortune of some decent wood on the lane.
Yeah, it's the pin in the back I'm a little concerned with, the number 9 pin.
And it still stands.
Hit it the way you wanted it to, but it just didn't look like it would go.
$10 for Don Richmond. 92.
And it will come down to the final frame, as these bowlers are just a pin or 2 apart.
Watch out, watch out. There they come.
There's a nice break. He's got to guide the wood on the lane to the left of the pin. He could miss it by a mile and still pick it up.
He took it right on the head.
He shot it like a real man.
Don Richmond will have the lead. Actually, he trails by 1, but he has a ball with 2 boxes remaining, heading down the final 2 frames. Shawn Baker will need to mark.
Here's the man who captured Candlepin Bowling's biggest money prize a month ago in the Easter Singles Classic. $5,000, 20 strings.
Baker on the head pin. The 10 pin still stands. Almost got swept away by that piece of wood as it left the deck.
This is a pressure shot.
Right on the nose. When you bowl 20 strings and you win $5 grand, you're used to bowling for pressure. Big shot by Shawn right there. This is a big shot here to fill the spare and close out the string and put some pressure on Don Richmond.
He's already well over 400.
Well, wood on the deck all over the place. The 7 and the 10 still stand.
Shawn's up there directing the pins around as he'd like them to be.
Look at him. He's trying to direct him, trying to move him away.
I think he's in pretty good shape, actually.
He's at 125. There it is. He closes out with back-to-back marks. Watch it one more time. Took a little bit longer than I think that he thought it would take.
And it was the ball that actually took
came
it
back
down
and got the pin. The fill is so very important right here. It could come down to this. He puts 9 in it. 144 and a 436 for Shawn Baker. Now Don Richmond.
Don needs 2 marks. And
he needs a big fill on this mark. He's working on a mark right here.
Crowd is buzzing.
Richmond on the head pin. Puts 8 in the spare.
And not a friendly leave.
I'm not so sure, Michael. Left side of that wood.
It actually looks better in person than it does on your television screen, the angle.
He threw it by it. Key miss. No, didn't go anyway. 9-1-19.
Well, he needs a double strike to win at this point. A mark and a strike and a spare wouldn't be enough. He needs 2 strikes.
No, a strike and a spare would leave him 1 pin short.
That's right. So he could get a spare on 2 strikes, or 2 strikes and a 2 fill.
Nope, it'll be Shawn Baker advancing. What a match this was.
Well, actually, if he makes this and gets a double strike, he still wins. Now it's over.
He finishes with an 8 and a 127 and a 423 for Don Richmond. And the standing ovation from the crowd.
Look at this.
At Leda Lanes, they appreciate the efforts of these 2 bowlers here this afternoon. What a great match this was. 436 to 423. We're back to meet the bowlers in just a moment. A terrific match here this afternoon as Shawn Baker defeats Don Richmond 436 to 423. Unfortunately, we're running out of time. We have to get right to the bonus ball contest, and Shawn Baker will roll a bonus ball and try to match him up with a viewer at home. And this time it'll be a 7 for Shawn. Mike Moran will dip into the barrel and pull out a card, and it is Helen Mailman of Gardner, Massachusetts, and she picked 8. Consolation prize for Helen, and 10 free strings of bowling go to Mary Regan of Medford, Massachusetts. The second card drawn out of the bin. What a match.
Next week, it's Rich Clark, who came in second in the Easter Sunday Classic a month ago, to the winner, Shawn Baker, who won $5,000. So it's getting more exciting. 2 weeks to go to get to the top.
$200 in bonus money for Shawn Baker, $150 in bonus money for Don Richmond, and they put on quite a show. We'll see you next week as we hit week 4 of our Tournament of Champions on Candlepin Stars and Strikes. For Mike Moran and our entire WNDS TV 50 crew from Leda Lanes in Nashua, I'm Dick Lutz. We'll see you next time on Candlepin Stars and Strikes. So long, everyone.